My Govanin, hi in Sindarin. I'm the Talking Chat, and I have seen the 6th episode of The Rings of Power. This episode is a giant battle and a giant mess. We most importantly get to know who the villain is of the whole show. As always, spoilers ahead, let's get right in. We begin the episode with Ada, who is planting seeds of a tree before the battle. We later learn that it is an ancient tradition of the elves, and soon we see Ada giving a speech to his orcs. He says to them that some of them will die, but this time they will not die nameless, but as brothers and sisters in their own land. Well, it shows that he cares for them, and he and the orcs have a common goal to conquer this land for themselves. And, to achieve it, they march and they are coming to the tower. And as they are closing and they get near the fortress, we see that on this narrow path that leads upwards, on this easily defendable bridge, and on the walls of the fortress, there is nobody. Well, it is very fortunate for Ada, because he is coming at the front of his armies, so he would be the first target of any defender, and soon the army would have no leader. But, well, luckily for him, there is nobody there. And the orcs enter the watchtower, and Ada orders them to search the place. It is this moment of tension and waiting if there will be anybody hiding there that Waldrick decides to ask Ada what happened to Sauron. Ada gives no answer, and we soon see that indeed there is somebody there. Hiding on the walls there is Arondir. Well, he is not spotted at first, and one of the orcs, after barely a minute, comes to Ada and says that, well, there is nobody here. But Ada tells him that he can smell Arondir. He specifically mentions that it is Arondir. And, Arondir himself reveals where he is. He shoots an orc, and then he shoots the tower. His arrow hits a rope, and then it all falls down. Literally, the whole tower falls down after one rope was cut. All the scaffolding breaks, and the tower falls on the orcs that are inside and those that are still climbing. Not all of them, but still there is a significant number killed. Arondir runs, and he closes the door, so the orcs are trapped there, and that's what we see of him in this scene. And after a tower falling down on the forces gathered in the fortress, we should expect that all inside will be in ruin, and probably few will survive. We'll see about that later. Now let's discuss the fact that this tower fell down. To be honest, I couldn't believe my eyes. There needs to be some setup of at least villagers doing something to the tower, destroying the scaffolding, preparing it to be brought down. Now it seems like all the construction of the tower was held by this one rope, and it would mean that those who built this building that stood for hundreds of years at the same time were no architects, because one fortunate shot could bring the whole work down in a second. Well, this great effort to build this whole tower could be destroyed, and we had to assume that the elves that lived there for those hundreds of years were just lucky that it never broke down, never fell on them. And how did Arondir know that it would be enough to shoot this one rope to destroy the whole fortress? Well, we never learn. But we learn where the villagers are. They're, in the valley near their village. And it brings some interesting questions. For example, was nobody observing them? They must have been no Orcish scouts. No one was observing the tower, because if anybody would have such task, they would have spotted this great number of people leaving the fortress and going somewhere else. So orcs do not use scouts. So how do they expect to function as an army? But that will be never answered. And there is another question: why do villagers stay in their village? And there are so few of them. There is still a whole Orcish army that would attack them. Why not escape the Southlands? Why do not get somewhere where it's safer? Why do not hide in the forest? But they decide to take their chances against trained legions of Orcish beasts, and they prepared to fight like there was no other option. But thanks to their plan to bring down the tower, thanks to them escaping, they have time to hide themselves at least. But they decide to fight, and like there was nothing better to do than die. And finally, the fact that they left and destroyed the fortress is just I cannot understand it. It's the worst tactic they could have taken. They had a choice, and instead of defending themselves in a fortified watchtower with this long and narrow path leading upwards, with this narrow bridge that could easily be brought down, and with those high walls, and a tower that is meant to survive the attack of great armies, Uh, they decide to leave this position and fight the orcs in a village where there is no barricade, there is no advantageous position. That's a village. That's it. There is nothing that would grant them any sort of advantage. And they choose it before the tower. Even what they achieve by bringing it down is not enough to justify destroying the best point of defense, probably the only hope that they could have for defeating the enemy. But, well, they decide to fight in a village, so all that happens next is a result of this decision. And it could be avoided if they stayed in the bloody watchtower, in the fortress, and not leave it. Then the camera takes us to the sea when we see the Minoran ships. Isildur comes on board and then he talks to Galadriel. She asks him about his rank and he tells her that he is a stable sweep. And then Galadriel of all people, gives him a talk about humility. That no rank is important, but what you do, and that being humble is a great value, and being proudful led to a downfall of many kingdoms. Well, it's hard to believe such words coming from the most proudful character of the show, and her preaching about it is just hypocritical and unbelievable. Yet that's what the show decides to do. Isildur leaves, and then Elendil comes, and Galadriel asks about Isildur's mother. What happened to her? Elendil does not answer, not right away. He first gives us this strange speech about him sailing to the dawn, but seeing only night, and some other metaphors, to finally say that she drowned. This, well, was meant to be some impressive dialogue, but it just sounded really weird. And, well, would Elendil still agree with the statement that he so eagerly repeated earlier? The sea is always right? Well, I very much doubt it. Then we move to the Southlands. We see Arondir, who, well, survived the fall of the tower and meeting with all the orcs that weren't killed by it. He must have gone beside them. There are still hundreds of them, but well, he is now with the others, and so he tries to destroy the dark sword with a simple hammer, and after just a few hits he decides that there is no use for this hammer, and he cannot manage it. He says, it is beyond our skill to destroy. Well, if only there was an active volcano somewhere nearby. And there is certainly none of that sort of mountain there. Well, so seeing that he cannot destroy the sword, he decides to hide it. He says to Bronwyn that that even she shouldn't know where the sword will be hidden. And then later they talk about an ancient elven tradition of planting seeds before the battle, and they kiss, and yeah, big romantic moment. Well, you can see how emotional it was for me to see them. And later we see the preparations for the battle, speech that Bronwyn gives, villagers blocking the entrances from the one tunnel. The elderly women and children going to the tavern to hide for the time of the battle. Well, there is a problem with that, because if there is going to be a battle in this very village, why should they hide in this village? There is a forest just beside the village, so they could go there where it would be easier to hide. But maybe they should flee and seek another place to live. But no, they will stay in a tavern that will be easily surrounded, burned down. We'll see where it leads to. And going further with the preparations, we see Arondir explaining his plan. He says it is vital that the villagers let all the orcs that will come to cross the bridge and enter the village. And soon we will see what he has in store for the orcs. So the orcs come. How did they know where to find the villagers? Of course, we do not know, but they come in a strangely little number. There are still many of them, but there is a group of 50, maybe 100. Well, they enter the village, and there we see what was Arondir's plan. It was to trap them. Bronwyn sets one of the carts on fire. One cart on fire, somebody sets another, and they are pushed to trap the orcs between the buildings and the burning carts. But it's not really effective strategy, because orcs easily find a way to break out, and the real fighting starts. So this plan wasn't really efficient. If only the villagers could have easily defendable position with walls and a tower and positions for shooting. Well, the fighting begins. Some villagers shoot arrows from the roofs, some fight on the ground, and then we see Arondir fighting with a big orc. He's a really big fellow, higher than any other orc, but he has one disadvantage. He has no weapons. He seems like the most valuable soldier of them all coming there, and the strongest one, but he has no weapons. So Arondir still is losing to him, but he would be dead if this soldier brought weapons to a battle. The fact that Arondir lives to see another day is thanks to soldier not bringing weapons for the battle. I have no words to describe what happened. Well, yeah, they fight because Arnir loses his weapon. Also, they fight just hitting each other and trying to strangle each other, and Arnir is losing. But when he is about to be killed, there appears Bronwyn out of nowhere. She must have passed somehow the battle that was going on between them. But yeah, she appeared. We already know that she can teleport, so now it's not such a surprise. She kills the orc, and now it seems that all the orcs have been defeated. So the Southlanders celebrate victory. But it has only been a few minutes of the episode. We are not even in the middle. And basing on the fact that main characters do not die off screen and that Numenorians still have to fight somebody, we can easily suspect that it's not over. Well, first, it is discovered that among the orcs there were the Southlanders that surrounded to Ada, and there is a significant number of them, and they are all killed now. Well, I understand that they surrounded. They feared for their life, but now they went to a battle to fight with the neighbors and friends. It's an entirely different matter. It's one thing to surrender to the enemy, and another to fight people who you knew your whole life. And I simply cannot believe that all these Southlanders just went to the battle and died for Ada, and fighting alongside the orcs. Well, we are left no time to wonder at this fact, because from the forest there come arrows. It is the second orcish army coming. Bronwyn is hit by an arrow, and all the villagers that are left alive fall back to the tavern. And we see the orcs running towards it. Remember that they are running, and the forest is right there. It is a few meters. But then we get this long sequence of tending Bronwyn. Arondir has to take the arrow out. Theo has to burn the wound to stop the bleeding. And we have to observe the moments of fear when Bronwyn seems to be dead, and the moment of joy when she draws breath and we see that she is now safe and, well, alive at least. And during that time the orcs have not come. Well, hard to believe, but soon enough we see them, and they start to break in. Then we see for a short moment the Numenorians galloping through the plains. Why are they galloping as if there was enemy ahead of them? Do they know the battle is going on? How would they know that? We never learn. And then we cut back to the Southlanders, and the orcs come in, and they easily overpower the few villagers that are still alive and able to fight. and Ada comes in. And at his order, the orcs start to kill the villagers to force Arondir to reveal where the mysterious dark sword is. And then they threaten to kill Bronwyn. But Arondir seems to agree to her death, but Theo reveals that the sword is there in the tavern, hidden under the floor. So, two questions here. First of all, was Arondir so skillfully hiding the sword that a child could spy on him and knew where the sword was hid? And, well, the question of Arondir allowing Bronwyn to die. I understand that this moral question, moral dilemma that we are presented to save one life or to risk all other lives is a hard question. It's not easy to answer. In every circumstances are different, but here there was a great opportunity, the first real opportunity to show Arondir's affection for Bronwyn, to show how much he cares, that he could risk the lives of all Southlanders to save her. And he's stripped of this possibility. He allows her to die. If it wasn't for Theo, she would be dead. So are we still to believe that he loves her? Then we see riders coming with the dawn, riders with horse tails in their helmets. Where have I seen that? Oh, the battle begins again, and we see that Numenorians seemingly do not know what lances are for and do not use them. Instead they use a chain that's, it kills many orcs, and it's meant to look epic and it's original, but, it defies laws of physics, but who would care for that? We see also Galadriel that has to show off, so she dodges an arrow and kills an orc while being upside down. Then we see the strange event when Isildur, he stays by Queen Miriel's side. She's not participating in the battle, she's observing it from a hill with some of commanders, her guards maybe. And Isildur is there, we don't know why, and Miriel sends him to join the fight. Why hasn't he joined it with all the others? We do not know. Now he moves, but nobody follows him. So it's really strange. Of course, later we see that it's only for Isildur to have an opportunity to save his father, because right now he is in danger, surrounded by, I think, 4 orcs. And Isildur runs to help him, to help him, but the scene ends with Halbrand saving Elendil, so there was no real purpose, nothing special happened with Isildur and his father, so it was all very strange. And then we see Galadriel meeting with Arondir, and Theo looking at her, being awesome and something. And then Galadriel runs after Ada, who seems to have the sword, the dark sword. She chases him, and Halbrand also sees that, and he also rides, follows her. We see this chase scene, and Galadriel says the same line that Arwen said in the Fellowship of the Ring. So we are again reminded that in the title of the show there is the Lord of the Rings, and there are some scraps that remind us there's some connection. And then we see the end of the chase when Halbrand comes from the other direction, from the other side. So he must have teleported, because there is no way that he could be there. It's just, there is no way. I do not understand how it could happen, but it happens. He comes from the other side and makes Ada fall from his horse, and Halbrand is ready to kill Ada. He asks him first if he remembers him. Ada says that he does not. So Halbrand prepares himself to strike a final blow, but Galadriel stops him and says that there is it will be no good to execute revenge now, and she needs Ada. Well, again, it is strange to see Galadriel lecturing somebody on revenge, because she is the one that for the last few centuries was following her will of revenge on Sauron. Well, but Halbrand listens, and in the next scene we see Galadriel talking to Ada. She believes him to be one of the elves captured by Morgoth in the early days, the predecessor of orcs, the first orc, one of the first orcs, really, like the corrupted, the destroyed by Morgoth's torture and evil will. And Ada admits, or does not oppose to this conclusion, and Galadriel asks him what happened to Sauron. And in order to obtain this information, she threatens to torture the few captured orcs. They were the last that survived the battle. They were captured, and now she threatens to torture them by putting them into sunlight. And she threatens Ada that she will force him to observe them suffer. You must remember, these are not only Ada's friends, this is basically his family. Those are his children, or his descendants, at least. And she threatens to torture them. Well, at this threat, Ada decides to talk. He reveals that Sauron, after Morgoth's defeat, decided to devote himself to healing Middle-earth and putting it into order. And to achieve that, he tried to meddle with some dark powers, the powers of the unseen world, and he was experimenting on the orcs. And Ada couldn't stand it, and finally he says that he killed Sauron. Galadriel immediately responds that she does not believe him, and here we agree. I also do not believe Ada, and do not believe Sauron to be dead. Well, the conversation quickly changes subject, and Ada tries to argue for the orcs and says that they have a right to have a home, they have hearts, they are worthy of calling a place their home. It's a little bit hypocritical because Only a few hours before, Ada didn't have problem with stripping the Southlanders from their right to have a home, and didn't remember of them having hearts and souls and lives. But this little inconsistency is nothing with what comes just next. Because then our lovely Galadriel says that she will do whatever is in her might to torture Ada, to make him observe the suffering of his children, to kill every single orc that still lives, that she will hunt them and make Ada observe how she will kill them, and finally, where all that he holds dear, his children, will be dead, he himself finally will be killed by her. And, well, I was left speechless. Well, listen to that, listen to her words, and then we will do what we have done before and change an image for something more appropriate.
You shall be kept alive, so that one day, before I drive my dagger into your poisoned heart, I will whisper in your piked ear that all your offspring are dead, and the scourge of your kind ends with you.
But you shall be kept alive, so that one day, before I drive my dagger into your poisoned heart, I'll whisper into your piked ear that all your offspring are dead, and the scourge of your kind ends with you.
Alright, so that's what I mentioned at the beginning. We finally see who is the villain of the show. And that moment I have more sympathy for Ada than Galadriel. It is Galadriel that gives this villain speech. She is threatening to destroy everything that is dear to Ada, and even if that's miserable lives of those evil creatures like orcs, she does it because of hatred. She wants to make him suffer, and he is able to suffer. He's not a mindless machine. He has feelings, and he will suffer if she does what she promises to do. And her being eager to do it is just so horrible. I'll talk about it more in the character sections, but it is, Ada puts it very well. He says that he is not the only corrupted elf in this room, and he tells her that perhaps her search for Morgoth's successor should have ended in her own mirror. And hearing that words, Galadriel is ready to kill him, and only Halbrand appearing, saves Ada's life. And then we get a scene with Galadriel and Halbrand talking. Galadriel tells Halbrand that he now can be free from all his guilt and whatever happened to him. And Halbrand responds that until this very day he thought it to be impossible to leave his past behind. But now, after this battle alongside Galadriel, something changed. He felt, he does not specify. And to be honest, it is hard to see what experience could they share during the battle, because they weren't together during the battle. They were separated. They fought somewhere else. They were together only during the chasing, and that's for a few seconds. What was there to feel? What changed? What was the basis of this change in Halbrand? There is none. There is nothing. And, well, he does not say what exactly changed. He does not say what he felt. He just says that this fighting, what he felt, and he never says what he felt, really. And Galadriel says that she felt that too, but when it is not named, it is not explained, it is just nothing. It is nothing. This scene is built on nothing, but it is executed like there was something to follow, something meaningful. But again, I repeat myself, but I will. It is nothing. Well, later we see Halbrand being hailed as the new king of the Southlands, and in even another scene we see Theo realizing that the package with the dark sword does not contain the sword. There is an axe in it, and the sword is somewhere else. We'll jump to where it is in a second, but how in the world nobody noticed that the sword weren't there? You know, the sword and an axe are some distinguishable shapes. It is impossible to hold it and not realize that there is not a sword, but something different, an axe. And different people held it, and nobody realized until Theo unwrapped the package. It is so stupid. And, well, on this stupidity realize what happens next. And it is Waldrek who was, for all this time, during the battle, on the side of Ada, and now he is in the watchtower. He looks at the sculpture of this sword that he holds. Pretty lucky that the surroundings weren't destroyed by the tower falling on it. And he inserts the sword into the ground. There is a hole for it, like it's a key. And he moves it, and then we see that the watchtower was also a dam that held the waters of the lake. And now the waters fall. And they flow through the trenches and tunnels that the orcs dig, and they end up in Rodruin, in Mount Doom. They fall there, and it causes an eruption. And this eruption is very severe. Smoke flies out, fires start burning, rocks start falling from the sky, and toxic fumes start to gather everywhere, and it all falls on the village. The villagers try to hide themselves. Only Galadriel stands and looks into the coming flames and smoke. And that's how the episode ends. And I would suppose that's how ends the history of everybody that was in this village. Because, the history of Pompeii. It is very similar. It was a pretty quick eruption that the villagers in Pompeii didn't manage to escape. And the fumes, the ashes, and the fire destroyed the whole city. And here it should look the same. It is almost the exact same scenario. But of course, the main characters won't die. I'm very curious to see how will they survive. And I hope it will be not by just surviving without any explanation. Now let's discuss the world building. We see that it has been the Orcs' plan all along to use the sword and to cause an eruption. Well, first we have to consider, was it really necessary, and is it the only thing that the sword does? Because, well, they could have destroyed the dam in a more regular way, and the sword wasn't necessarily needed for that. They could open it, and it would be maybe even less tiring than chasing for the sword and fighting and dying in order to obtain it. The second thing is, and that's, why was this dam built on the lake? And why has it the option to be opened? Who built it? And in what purpose? Was it built by Sauron? And so why do the elves dwell there? And how don't they know about this dam? It should be easily found and, should be known, just known about. And it seems like something new that appears out of nowhere. And, what else is to say? Now we see that the plan was to cause an eruption and probably destroy the Southlands to make it more suitable for orcs. We see that, Ada and the orcs sought for a land to be their home. And, we see that the strategy of destroying the defendable place, like Watchtower, didn't really benefit the Southlanders. And that's all the issues from world building. Now let's discuss characters. First of all, we cannot leave out Galadriel. We see now that she is the worst character in this show. She is the villain. She is the most horrible of all characters that we have seen. Well, Ada never threatened to kill all the elves and to force Galadriel to observe how they will die. It is completely the opposite. It is Galadriel that threatens to kill every orc on Ada's eyes. And that's pretty villainous. It's evil. It's straight up evil. She, out of hatred, out of revenge and disdain, just threatens to kill an entire race. I know this race serves evil, but still, she would do it for her own pleasure of making others suffer. And that's hard to even comprehend and to accept. I cannot accept it. I do not accept her as a protagonist. She is the villain for me, and it will be very hard to change my perception, because I've seen what she has done here, and that's unacceptable. When it comes to the other characters, we've seen an attempt to present something meaningful in the relation between Isildur and Elendil, but that was stopped by Halbrand. In the relation between Halbrand and Galadriel, but there was nothing substantial there. And in the relation between Arondir and Bronwyn. But here, I was surprised to see Arondir agreeing to see Bronwyn die, and it prompts me to consider if there was really an affection between them, and if it's not just for the long time I have said that I do not see any affection between them, so maybe that's right. And there was also Theo, who understandably didn't agree to see his mother die, so he gave Ada the weapon that caused the eruption. Now, there are two issues connected to the relationship with the source material. The first one is a lie that Ada tells, or maybe his misconception, his false belief that Sauron is dead. If he was dead, then the whole third age of Middle-earth and all that should happen next, all the stories that we know from the works of Tolkien wouldn't happen. So I strongly believe that Sauron is still alive. And the second one is something to praise the show. So the usage of the origin story of the orcs, how they came to be, that they were corrupted elves, and to show one of such elves was, I believe, good move, and it was and could be explored even more, and I liked it. I liked the usage of the fact, and it is a good use of the source material. A shame that it's the only thing that connects the story in this episode with what Tolkien wrote. Now, let's move to the final conclusions. I think I have said all that was needed to be said. Galadriel is the villain. Adar is, a lesser villain. Now we see Southlands being destroyed by the eruption from Mount Doom. And, Numenorians and Southlanders are all in danger. And, well, we will see how the situation will unravel. Now, well, we will see it in the next episode. I hope to see you in the review of the next episode. Fare you well. Nowe year.
Subscribe right now, you little hobbitses.